Hello, stream. Welcome to the STiKS. We have a very special guest today, Phase Aches. I've also got Smiting Fatty, and unfortunately, Hitch is unable to make it to the show today, but you can see that he is in the chat. Aches does not have his webcam set up, so you guys can just look at the American flag and his name throughout the show while he's talking. So we're not going to do the regular intros that we do for the show, where we do something, say something silly, and introduce ourselves and who we are. You guys know who Smiting Fatty is. You know who I am. Aches, however, I am going to give you a chance to do something that we don't normally ask pros to do on our show. Kind of introduce yourself, and if you want to, tell us how you got started in gaming and kind of when or what made you decide to continue to do gaming long term as a career.
All right, so I'm Iggs, also known as Patrick Price, from Stanford, North Carolina. I first started gaming way back when, back in the original consoles, and then I played Halo, like Halo 2 on the original Xbox, and that obviously transferred over to the 360, and then Halo 3, and then COD 4 came out, and I had played COD 2 on the original Xbox, but it was more just like a side game that I bought, and then I had got into Call of Duty 4 as soon as it came out with some of my Halo friends, and I knew about MLG and the Pro Circuit, and I'd obviously watched Halo for a long time, and that kind of instantly transferred over to GB and getting into the competitive scene for Call of Duty. It wasn't until Modern Warfare 2 that I started like truly competing. I played in the PCLs in '08, and then '09 I kind of was playing just Call of Duty, and then just kind of just doing me, not really focused on too much. And
Hmm.
then into 2010 is when I really started to get like hardcore competitive, and tons of online tournaments. Like that's when I started Leverage with Fatalize, and then went to my first event, which was Nationals for MW2 in Dallas, and we got second. And that's the first event I started teaming with TP, which obviously lasted about 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I think it was at the start of because 2011 went really well for us. Kind of broke out and won two events on the circuit, the 25K major online event, and then at the end of that year, kind of Modern Warfare 3 came out, which pretty much killed off a big chunk of competitive. And it wasn't until the end of 2012, after I graduated high school and I was in my first year of college, that Black Ops 2 came out, and I found a team, and we saw just like immediate amazing success off the bat. And
Hmm.
that's kind of when I realized that this is something I wanted to do with Call of Duty Champs being announced for 3 years. That kind of solidified my decision to make this current career. And and then I took off after I did my first year of school. I took off school, which was right after Call of Duty Champs,
Hmm.
um, and then kind of gave this my full time um, passion. And then yeah, ever since then, things have kind of blown up, success
Yeah.
wise for myself and my teammates. And then so yeah, that was pretty much like mid 2013 when I took off school was when I kind of decided this is like okay, this is something I'm gonna try and do.
So, how much school did you get done before you decided to
I
go
a full year.
a full year? So you
Yeah,
can still have you thought about going back at any point?
yeah. That I'm like it's like right now I'm just like I wanted to get my 2 year done, and I'm thinking of getting my like doing it online, kind of time management wise, to kind of be able to finish that. Um, it's just kind of right now I'm trying to plan around it and see when I'm time constraints wise and when I have enough free time because this year is going to be pretty hectic with traveling.
What
Yeah.
what what are you studying?
Computer science was my major and probably still will be.
Awesome.
Nice. So I saw you guys on Twitter. I don't remember when this was. It might have been before or after Columbus, but everybody was talking about who made who and who has, found the most people and brought them into the community. Like who who was it that brought you into the community? Like who was it that was it a teammate that convinced you to grind harder, to play better? Like who convinced you that this was an actual viable option for your life?
um,
It was the
back in
money.
back in 2008, like I said, Fatalize, who isn't playing too much anymore, but still kind of a longtime friend of mine, was my first teammate in 2008, and I guess me and him were like the amount we played together was a big reason to why I got started in the competitive, and then other than that, I had gotten friends with the Envy guys,
Hmm.
so I'm assuming honestly, foreplay would probably be one of the biggest motivators for me back in the day.
Dude, I
There's
think
a
foreplay motivates everybody.
yeah.
Just saying.
There's a lot of people that low key would put him as like, even looking at Censor and the way he's, changed his personal image and his health and everything. Like, I think people don't know because Foreplay doesn't he doesn't seek a lot of like pats on the back for himself.
All right, yeah.
And so nobody really knows how many people's careers he's actually touched. Which I
Just
think,
lives in general.
yeah, that's one
Yeah,
of the greatest
he's a great
effects.
dude.
Yeah, great dude. I mean, he's the guy that got me in with G Fuel and stuff. It's just, I mean, he just said, "I believe in what you're doing," and I was like, "Oh, cool, awesome." So I really appreciate that, guy. So I'm gonna, because I know you have limited time, I'm not gonna like beat around the bush and stuff. I'm gonna get right into some of the questions we have. So
All right.
recently, and I can't pinpoint when, but it seems like at a certain point you just took a shift, and I want to make sure that I'm clear about how I would define the shift. I would say that probably about 2 months to beyond that 2 months. Your persona, the way you were known around the community, and it's funny because people still to this day are like waiting. They're like, when is the aches that we all used to follow on Twitter and see what he was going to say when certain things happen? Where is that guy? It's like I think there was a time when you had the attitude of, or let's say this is how it sounded from the way you communicated. It sounded like I'm the best and the rest of you are nowhere close to my level. Now it sounds like you have transitioned to saying I'm the best, which none of us can really say that that's wrong, because if this is a competition about winning, well, obviously you've outwon everybody else in the game. So I guess my real question is like, did you make an intentional transition in how you interact with the community? I mean, even post Columbus, the way you communicated with like Hastro and the way you were communicating on Twitter, and the way you've done some funny stuff, like when you did the guy, like, peeing on the optic sign and stuff, but, but it wasn't like, you intentionally went after certain players to remind them I'm Aches, you're you, you'll never be me. It was like you just let your game talk. And so my question is like, did something happen that changed? Did you change as a person? Is this intentional? Did somebody tell you it'd be better for your personal branding? Or I mean,
Did you even
like,
realize it?
yeah, like what happened?
Well, originally, I guess, I guess I would say that, well, okay, part two, I guess, of it would be when EG kind of fell out and everything went down the way it did, and um, I guess the way everybody went their own way or whatever.
Yeah.
It didn't really like strike me as something like against me. It was more of something that was just like, okay, like now I have an opportunity to prove myself individually, and I think the biggest reason for, I guess, quote unquote, my actions like previously were, you know, I guess I still felt like I maybe wasn't respected for what I should have been in terms of like what I had done in my career.
Yeah.
Um, and then I mean, more recently, it was just like I got to the point where, like, to be honest, like I didn't really care for anyone else's opinion. Not that that was ever like a main thing in what I was
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
looking for other people's opinions. But um, like with Columbus especially, cutting my hand and finding a last minute team for that event, going with FaZe, and then kind of just overcoming everything that went into it with all the. I mean, I would say I would classify it as like unintentional bashing that my
Yeah.
my ex teammates did
Yeah.
towards me, and I guess my quote unquote recent decisions with that team. Um, I was just more so focused on like, all right, whatever's happened. I'm not really worried about it. I'm just gonna come here. I'm gonna show up. I'm kind of gonna prove my point and not say anything, and
Mm.
see how that works out. And I think it worked out really well for me, because I got the chance to obviously prove my individual worth as a player
Yeah.
and kind of show like like this is what I bring to the team. This is like how valuable I am. Since everyone had been saying I needed player X or Y or whatever to be successful, um, and I was replaceable or whatever. And that kind of like struck a big nerve in me, and I didn't let really
Mm.
anybody know. And
Mm.
then and I guess before that though, I mean, you'd have to accredit my girlfriend for uh my recent behavior calming down. She just kind of puts me in a better mood overall, and Not really too worried about what anybody else is saying or doing or anything in the community. I'm just here to play and get the job done and then go on with my day.
That is super dope. When I created this question, I was telling my producer, I was like, she could have something to do with it. I was like, I mean, but a good woman will do that, and that's what's the best about them. It's like they make you better. So I can in
Yeah.
no way, shape, or form hate on that. I'm happy for you.
Gotta say, my wife saved me from jail a couple times, so just gotta say.
From
Well, that's
jail.
that's
Oh
good.
yeah, like from like full on beating people in public, like
Oh, okay.
you know.
Dang, I'm scared. I'm not gonna go to an event if Fatty's going.
Well, no, I'm not like I'm not intimidating. I'm no like foreplay, but you know those things like when you're out in public and
Somebody
somebody
does
like
getting
something.
freaking
reckless.
does something stupid and you're like, I'm just gonna tear you up. But yeah. Anyways, I have a I have a temper just like every other warm blooded person.
No wonder your show was called Rival Caster because you were
That wasn't my show, but no, that was a good show.
always ready to throw down.
Oh,
So,
Fatty.
Aches, you were talking about your hand, and I got some interesting statistics from the guys at COD underscore stats.
Okay.
Definitely follow those guys on Twitter. If you guys are watching the show, we pushed over 1K. Make sure you guys just keep tweeting out the stream. So they told me, and I looked at some statistics that before you played 18 games before you injured your hand and 19 games after. In
18 map, yeah.
in the 18 maps that you played, you were literally 0.05 away from 30 kills per 10 minutes, whatever they've changed the kills
Yeah.
per respawn to. And then after, you were 26.53, so you dropped almost 4 kills per respawn. And then your KD went from 1.18 down to 0.95. So I was kind of thinking, like, how do you guys think this would this tournament have gone the exact same way, or um, would you have maybe had an easier road on Sunday if you wouldn't have gotten your hand hurt?
Maybe, but you got to look at like all the like possibilities of whether mentally that changed my teammates' drive or changed my own drive. But I think I know that I was looking at that stat and I looked into it, and if you look at the hardpoint stats, um, my hardpoint still remained the best on my team
Yeah, the
because I
highest
didn't
KD.
I didn't change up how I played hardpoint. I'm still when I play hardpoint I focus on being the most aggressive on my team, kind of highest kills, highest deaths is my motive. And the only thing I really changed up with my hand was how I played CTF and uplink, and that's what really affected my KD overall. Was that instead of being like the high slayer in CTF and uplink, obviously me and apathy kind of transitioned our roles, and if you look, I had the most uplinks overall for the whole tournament by like 15, I think, and
Yeah,
I had the highest uplink per map. I was just really kind of transitioned into OBJ base because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do my job as effectively as apathy or slashers. So
yeah,
um, I kind of transitioned how I played, and that definitely took a shot to my KD. But um, honestly, I think if anything, it helped us in a really weird way.
mm,
It made us all way more focused on getting the win and
yeah,
kind of playing around it, and it gave us a lot more like just want to win in general than a regular event.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, I kind of talked to my teammates about it and everything, and I kind of made a joke of it, just kind of tried to make them laugh, tried to make them not think about it, because I mean, regardless of it hurting and limiting my ability, which was the biggest thing when we played 12 o'clock on that Sunday when we played Prof in the winter bracket semis, was I came in, I sat down, no warm up, and I was just not used to what I could and couldn't do. Like I quoted it in an ESN article of
mhm,
like what really was affected, and like I was just so limited as to like how I had to play, and
yeah,
so it took that like 3-0 slap in the face against Prof to kind of to realize and be more alert of what I couldn't do like as a player.
yeah.
Like I couldn't drop shot, I couldn't crouch, I couldn't engage in any long range gunfights because like the small minor aiming was just so hard long range.
Ugh.
And I kind of had to avoid any close range combat because like having a guy jumping around in my face, I can't exactly like turn the fastest. So I kind of slowed down my gameplay. Did a lot more like L triggering and passive play calling than how I normally do. Whether it benefited us more than it would have if I was 100%, I don't know. But I know it took me a little while to adjust to what I could and couldn't do, and then once we did, we kind of got rolling, and that's the best thing about coming out hot out of the loser bracket. You steamroll so much momentum that it's kind of hard to stop.
You guys, I mean, how bad, like on a scale of, like when you go to the doctor, they ask you, like, how bad on a scale of 1 to 10 were you in pain when you were playing?
Okay, so when I went to the ER, I think she asked me that like 1 out of 10, and I was like 3, because it wasn't too bad, like when I was
Yeah.
holding like a rag on my hand, just soaking up the blood or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, when I got like an hour of sleep and I woke up and I showered and I started having to like move my hand a lot was when I was like, okay, this sucks, and
Hmm.
so the pain progressively got worse throughout the day, and it was more of like it wasn't like a stinging pain, like it wasn't really that. It was just that like throbbing like like my hand saying like stop moving me, like it wasn't really like a sting. It was just like a throbbing like ache, as ironic as that is, in the palm of my thumb. Um and
That's
so
gonna be
yeah,
his
that
next
got
gamer tag.
that got worse throughout the day, and then obviously when I treated that pitcher, 10 hours later or whatever,
Yeah.
from when we started playing, like my hand was swelled a little bit and didn't look too good, but I mean, now I'm back to looking okay. I get my stitches out Wednesday, I believe. So everything's going well with my thumb.
Yeah, it was evident, like especially in that hug scene, like at the end where you were literally like you were sticking your arm as far away
Yeah,
from
I was I
everybody
was literally
else.
like, guys, watch out! Like everybody's trying to be
Don't
hype, but
touch
I'm
it!
like, guys, yeah, guys,
Don't touch
please
it!
don't hurt me, please.
That would hurt. So I can't even imagine like if you, because I've jammed my fingers like playing basketball and stuff, and then when someone like hits it again, there's
Oh
no
yeah.
worse pain.
Oh yeah, there was a God. I think it was in between the first best of five and the second best of five where Slasher accidentally hit like my right hand when he was slapping it, and lucky enough he didn't hit my thumb, but he hit my like, he still hit my hand, and like that jolt kind of was just like, like what? Just pay a little bit more attention, bud. Because I wasn't even going for a high five. I was just kind of sticking my hand out, and then I was like, because I was high fiving everybody with my left and knuckle
Yeah.
touching with my left, and yeah, he like I guess he was just so excited that we just won. He just kind of slapped the shit out of my hand. I'm just like, okay, I'll let that one slide. We just won. Let's focus up.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a very quick 30-second commercial break, and then when we come back, we're gonna throw some questions from Twitter at Aches before he has to go, to make sure we get some of your guys' questions. Keep tweeting out the stream. We're pushing 1,200 viewers, and thank you, Qshi. I don't even know how to say your name for subscribing to the
Kyushi.
channel. Qshi, yeah, whatever it is. We'll see you
And make
guys.
sure you ask those questions with hashtag the sticks too.
Yes, and Fatty will be looking for your questions on Twitter. We'll see you guys on the other side of 30 seconds. Peace. All right. So the first question I want to ask you guys, and let me send this question over to Goalie so he can put it on stream. First question I have for you, Aches. I got a lot. Some of them were stupid, but I chose a few out of them. So the first one is from at CYOL Blink. And he asked, what do you do at the start of a new Call of Duty that allows you to be so dominant early on?
Um, Dang, starting with the tough ones. No, I mean, outside of like the typical, like play as much as you can. You always want to outplay your opponent or whatever. To learn as much as you can. I think over the years I've kind of just developed this. Uh, I don't want to say it's like a sixth sense, but it's like I know what it takes early on to like how to set up on a map. The most efficient way to run a flag, the most efficient way to do this, the best way to hard point, the best way to rotate. And mainly it's always been search and destroy. Because if you've seen, like, this event, we won, 80, 90% of our searches um, in the in Columbus of last year, 2013. We won actually 100% of our searches for Ghost. The year before that, in Black Ops 2, was the Frag Cup, and we won a ton of our searches in that as well. And I think, like, when people say search and destroy wins championships, that really only holds true in the first few months of the game, because the skill gap and the meta in search is just so different in the beginning. It's more like, it's less tactile, I'd say. And I think the thing that I bring to the team the best is that, my play calling and, like, decision making in search and destroy, especially in the beginning, is kind of I don't like toot my own horn too much, but it's like
Well,
I
it's
just kind
obvious
of
that you know what you're doing.
yeah, kind of like I see more than other players see in terms of, like, situational plays, and especially like this weekend or this past weekend, like, a majority of our search and destroy wins were small clutches, I clutched. I know I clutched like 4, 5, 5 1v1s, and just a lot of just small 1v2s and things like that. So, like, situational plays, I think in the beginning of the game I play a lot different than other players, and
Yeah.
I'm very different in how I kind of see the map and read the map in terms of what I decide for our team, where we want to go, how we want to play it, what bomb we want to plant, when we want to plant, when we want to play for picks, just things like that. So I think I know you asked kind of a question for more advice, but I really don't know how to tell you. It's more so just through experience that I kind of picked up on little things, really just small minor things that just give my team the biggest edge in the early stages of the game.
How do you think your team's play is going to change now that the new patches come out and the ASM one seems to be dominant? Do you think your guys' style will change, or the whole scene in general?
I think Doug is more comfortable as a player, which is weird because he made phenomenal plays with the bow all weekend, but he's always he was talking the other day, especially in CTF, which right now is by far our worst game type. Our win rate of that at Columbus was
3 and
atrocious,
6.
but yeah, and that was like we won the pool play ones and not any in the bracket. So I think he's a lot more comfortable in especially CTF. I think it'll speed up uplink on maps like uplink on maps like Comeback and Detroit. But overall, I mean, I don't see it affecting it too much. I mean, the bow obviously got a nerf, but it was minor enough that you won't see the biggest change. And then obviously the ASM one will be more used in search. But as far as our team goes, I just think it won't change up too much. Maybe small like plays and rushes and kind of little strategies that we come up with round by round. But overall, not too much of a change.
Kat, look, before you ask your question, Fatty, I know you have a question. I hear people talking about, and I saw even Krim doing it in the 5K yesterday, like, and you may have said it and I missed it because I was typing in the chat, but why is it that people's initial thoughts or that the ASM is going to be most effective in search and not effective in the respawns?
Because in respawns, you can't really dictate or predict how many long-range engagements you're going to be in, whereas in search, you can decide what kind of engagements you fight.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, obviously, if you overclock rush, a bomb site, you're predicting that, hey, there's going to be a defender in that bomb site waiting for you, and that's obviously a close-range engagement that you would prefer the ASM one to have with you. So search is kind of, you can dictate whether you fight a long range or a close range gunfight, and you can put yourself in the position to, be most, I guess, versatile.
Yeah.
What you do.
Yeah.
So in the bow is kind of, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, and it's kind of there for long range, mid range. It's good overall. And then the ASM one will obviously boost it. It's another thing for CTF is if you run a submachine gun, you run faster as well. I don't know the stat line of how much faster you are, but you are faster, so that'll go into big running the flag, and time wise, especially with how the spawns are now, where you spawn overextend a majority of the time. But it's just things like that where you can kind of decide and choose what you do with your gun.
Okay, awesome. Fatty, you got a question from Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that Sensor played great all weekend, and this Twitter comes from Morality, I think his name is, and he asks, Aches, were you surprised with Censor's growth of thumbs the weekend of Columbus? Hashtag the STiKS.
Oh my god.
That's actually funny. Doug kind of, without me knowing, did our seating arrangement for how we sit on each side of the booth, and he put me beside him. Um, and I had no idea. I mean, I didn't go into like he didn't ask or we didn't like kind of talk about how we wanted to sit. Um, and then he told me after the tournament, because Doug's been a long, long time friend of mine, since back in like early 2011. Um, and he told me, and I'm not trying to take credit for anything, but he told me he thought he played well because he was trying to like play for my respect, I guess. Because I mean, obviously
Hmm.
Doug kind of has always had a reputation where like people look down upon his ability and his gameplay and what he's capable of. But he told me that he thought he did better, um, because he was playing beside me, and he didn't want to like he thought he was playing to prove it to me, as well as himself. Because he told me as soon as I joined the team, he's like, "Look, Pat, like I don't like my reputation as is. I want you to help me change it." And because I mean, Doug's a great player and always has been, and then has always kind of got the light look down upon on him versus like having him
Yeah.
like look good. And so I mean, I was there all weekend, kind of just positive reinforcement, backing everybody up, like kind of egging everybody on,
Yeah.
reminding them, like what we're here to do and how good they are. So I mean, I'm not too sure, but I mean, I think Doug played one of his best events outside of UMG Nashville of last few months, last game, whatever. So
Yeah.
I think Doug kind of just wanted to really just wanted to prove a lot this event, and he did it. And this is also the first event he teamed with me, and I know he's been wanting to team with me for a long time. So
Is
Yeah.
that kind of why we had a transition of captains to you from Doug?
um, I don't honestly. See this is weird, and I don't think anybody knows this. I had no idea that was happening. I mean, the night before they announced on ESR, I got in a call with them, and that's kind of when they approached me with the idea. But other than that, I had no idea it was going down. I mean, I know Doug had made jokes about it before because me and him have always joked about like captain, because obviously I was captain for my teams over 4 years, and then he's obviously been doing captain at FaZe for a long time. And I even told him as soon as it was kind of announced, I was like, Doug, I'm really not comfortable taking this from you if it's not something that you want, because um, this was your team and I came onto it to to play and to bring championships. But if you're not comfortable with me being captain, I can still be here and provide everything that I would provide as captain. But I mean, they talked about it against the FaZe management and Doug, and came to that decision that they wanted me to be captain, for whatever reason, and so I was glad to do it. But it wasn't something that I was like, hey, I would prefer this or I want this from you. It was more so just an overall mutual decision that I think Doug kind of put his pride aside and looked out for the better of the team. Whether I'm a better captain or he's a better captain, none of that matters. It just I guess my track record was something that they wanted to put their trust in, and I'm perfectly okay with taking that and doing the
Yeah.
best I can.
I'd
Does
bow
the
out for the winningest player anytime.
does the because I watched Apathy's video on that. I watched Censor's video. I watched the ESR interview. He didn't say much in that, but Apathy kind of he was saying that FaZe all along wanted you to be the captain. But he also stated in a different, or maybe it was when he was on the show or when Neslo was on, stated basically that it was really Censor who always wanted to team with you and wanted you on the team, um, which seems like a good captain decision, I guess. Like when things were going around and roster mania was crazy, it was like Censor was like, I want Aches. I want to play with Aches. We could
Yeah,
maybe get another guy here with him, but no matter what, I want Aches. And when it looked like they weren't going to get you, it was like, okay, we'll test out these guys. But they never solidified a spot on their team or a role on their roster because as long as you were available, they were going to keep it, like, and then I
yeah,
think, he basically said that once you said, okay, I can do it, he was like, awesome. All right, let's do it. Let's bring you on the team. And so I think my question, I guess, is like, what does that do? Like making you the captain? Does it change? Do you now have more of the roster making decisions? Because I mean, you're gonna be yourself. I mean, you're gonna call out. You're gonna say we need to do this,
yeah.
and they're gonna trust your voice because of your 19 championships. But
I Yeah, which is something I was really refreshing to be on this team versus being on my prior team because I mean after winning like 14 or 13 tournaments with TP and Crim,
Yeah,
we kind of lost that one voice kind of role because once you win 13 out of like 14 15 tournaments, like everybody's smarter than everybody, and so that was another reason we kind of started to drift as a team is we kind of started to butt heads in game, and like decision making was kind of cluttered, whereas it wasn't for the a majority of our run. But um, I mean, I think our in game things will still be the best. I've never really been like the dictator person. Like
yeah,
I've always wanted to hear everybody out, but in the end, I'm going to make the decision I think is best. But I mean, in game, I really don't think it's going to change much. Maybe me more play calling, than priorly, just because Doug might not feel the confidence to or whatever. But I mean, in game, it worked really well over the weekend. I
yeah,
spoke when I had to speak, or I spoke when I had to, and I let kind of everybody play their thing, which is another big thing. Back to that first question about the first event, it's really important to let everybody play the way they want to play and not change anyone. um, I think when you play comfortable as a player, you're gonna play your best.
yeah,
When you kind of just do your thing and you don't really second guess it or change things, like you play the best you're gonna play. And that's another reason I don't think Optic Gaming didn't steamroll everybody this weekend, because when you put that team on paper, like there's no one they should lose to. And I said this in another interview, I think, with Daily Dot, was that I don't think Formal was playing comfortably. I mean, when you bring three Slayers like that on a team, it's really going to be weird as to who kind of gets priority over another. And I think Crim and Scump definitely outshine Formal. And I think him going from Envy to where he was the number one Slayer, like this is his job, like you don't mess with him, you let him slay, to being with Crim and Scump where he's fighting against someone in terms of like performance. I think it hindered his ability to play. Um, so it goes back to whether I think playing comfortably is just the most important thing, and I think that's what allowed Doug to do so well. Is and which is another big reason why we let Neslo go, was because it hindered everyone's ability to play comfortably.
yeah,
And we kind of brought Slasher on, and I was like straight up, like Doug said this a few times on ESR. I was like, Slasher, I don't want you throwing a stun grenade. I don't want you focused on anything
yeah,
except getting kills, like because that's his comfortable style. I've watched him play. I watched season three. I watched Niagara. Obviously, I played against him. I
yeah.
think he's that type of player who's he'll get in the zone when he just kills, and that was something I really tried to work with him on, was that, hey, you're on a team where you have me, I'm gonna do what it takes to get the win. You have App, you have Doug, like you don't have to worry about doing these small things, objective focused, and all I want you to do is kill and do the thing that, you shine in. And that worked really well for him, and he had probably the statistical MVP performance of the weekend for us, and that was something I was really really happy about.
So, what are your thoughts on? I guess I'll give credit to this person. This is from at Silently Sin SYN Matthew Curtin. What are your thoughts on the game types? I think I saw you tweet it out, but I guess you can add a why as to and which. So I think you tweeted two hard points. So if there's two
Yeah.
hard points, his question was, do you think there should be two hard points? What gets dropped, CTF or uplink, and why?
Um, Well, obviously, there's a lot of skepticism going into Columbus about Uplink, which I never really talked about. When I posted my rules thread on Reddit, um, trying to get like awareness brought to it so we could get it hashed out before the event, I
Yeah,
even said like I'm not even going to speak on Uplink because I don't mind it. And then obviously it performed superbly over the weekend, but I think right now the biggest problem with CTF, regardless of how it plays, is the maps we're playing it on. I
mm,
don't think it plays well competitively on the maps that we're currently using. I think if Sledgehammer would relocate the flag positions on Detroit and come back, and then look at the spawns on both of those maps, we could sub those out for Ascend and Biolab, and then you would have Retreat, Detroit, Comeback as your CTF maps.
yeah.
And then I think that would play a lot better than how we have it as is. But obviously, I think Hardpoint plays phenomenal in this game, and I think it should still have two. Um, Uplink obviously I think should just go to game 3 instead of CTF being game 3, and have it like permanently game 3, and then obviously you need 2 S&Ds, and then the idea I was proposing is kind of how we have it now, is where it goes hardpoint S&D CTF uplink S&D, and it rotates every other round where uplink goes game 3 and CTF goes game 4. I
Hmm.
think if you did it to where you had, like, let's say round 1 was hardpoint S&D uplink hardpoint S&D, and then round 2 was hardpoint S&D uplink CTF S&D. So you kind of just switched out a hardpoint and a CTF every other round,
Yeah.
because hardpoint just plays so much better than CTF as is right now. But otherwise, if we kept it how we have it, then I think that the CTF maps definitely need to change. Biolab is extremely one-sided. Like, you kind of know which side's going to win. And then if you have the bad side first, you want to lose by the little amount of deficit as possible.
Yeah.
And then so I think if they, swap those maps, I think CTF could definitely be a lot more enjoyable. The biggest issue with CTF on Detroit and Comeback right now is that the flags are on top of buildings, which is really just like
Weird.
odd for
Yeah.
how we play, like with wrapping back and OEing. So I think if they, like, for example, on Comeback, if they put the flag points like behind the yellow building and behind the blue building, so it was diagonal across the map, that'd make that map a lot better. And then the other problem with it is that the split spawns are way too chaotic. They kind of need to dictate, where someone's going to spawn. And then on Detroit, I think all they need to do is fix the flag locations. They're kind of, one's on top of a crate if it could be in the crate, and then another is on top of the Atlas building if it could be behind it, and like where the uplink port is. I think that map would play a lot better as well.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the biggest problem I have with CTF right now, is the maps are just too inconsistent and not well structured enough to be kept. Like, Ascend, in my opinion, is probably the worst map. Um,
Yeah.
it's heavy defensive based, and you kind of get lucky of when you pull. You kind of want to get like the kills as you pull, and it's just not a competitive based map, because it's going to lead to multiple people playing defense, because you can get all these little weird angles on the flag. But I think CTF's okay as if we change the maps, but I think Uplink definitely should stay. And then if not, I mean, I would prefer 2 hardpoints, just because it's a lot more fun to play and, in my opinion, watch.
Well, I mean, and it's a lot more entertaining. And if, for your guys' I think you guys won 73 or 75% of your hard points,
Yeah,
which when there's only one, I mean, that means you won game one 75% of the time. I mean, which is
right, yeah.
huge when there's no other hard points to play. I'm going to I think Fatty has a question. I just think, as you were talking about Biolab, I was looking at the statistics on Biolab from from the different game types, and I kind of wonder if Biolab is really viable, the way that even in search it's so predictable, like whether defense or offense is gonna take it depending on what side they spawn on and things like that. So I wonder if that map is too predictable. Like,
Biolab's also extremely one-sided in hardpoint as well. The spawn you get, and if you look, regardless of my injury, when we played Prof the first time, they had the good spawn on Biolab, and they
yeah,
beat us 250 to 80. And then when we replayed them in loser
jeez,
bracket finals, we had the good side, we beat them 250 to 80. It kind of like, when you spawn blue side instead of spawning like the escalator side, you have a just like, literally, if you don't do something stupid and throw it away, you could literally get a 55 to 0 point lead on that map.
wow,
And that kind of sets the tempo for how you can rotate early. The other team's going to get nervous, letting you get 55 free
yeah.
points on the first tilt, and they're going to kind of just, it's just one of those maps to where the first spawn is so good that it kind of dictates the whole tempo of the game.
It's kind of scary how much knowledge you have already in this game, and it just started.
It's amazing, actually.
Go ahead, Fatty.
All right, next question comes from Adam. It's Adam 1999555. He says, "Who was your favorite teammate ever besides TP?" Hashtag the sticks.
Besides TP,
Yep. Is TP your favorite though? That's
I mean, I think he would have to be, just because the duration that we teamed, and the amount of respect we have for each other throughout. I think because it's kind of weird. Like, whenever we had a team problem or a roster change or whatever, like, it was kind of like funny, because throughout the years people try to turn me and TP against each other. It's just
Yeah.
how it happens, and like, neither of us had to ever worry about that or worry about something like that happening. It was kind of cool just because like the mutual respect we had and the success that we had together was just something that like I mean I don't think any other quote unquote duo will ever do or anyone will do together. But other than TP, favorite teammate, I would have to say Krim in 2013, like strictly that year, or Bobby in 2011.
Krim in 2013. All right. So we only got a couple more questions. I know you got to go in a minute. Thanks for staying a little extra overtime. And I know the league matches are finally about to start in like 15 minutes or so. But I do want to ask you, I guess, one or two questions. One is, and I've been very critical of Optic Nation. Most people disagree with me. But what are your thoughts on, and this is from Taylor in the chat. I'm sure you know who Taylor is.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your thoughts on Optic Nation as a team? Do you think that roster works long term?
I think they'll probably get along well, and like they won't have any personal conflicts, which is a big downfall of a lot of teams. Um, but I don't think those players can play and be complacent with getting top eight, top six performances, which I don't see changing in the near future without a roster change.
Yeah.
The problem with that team is they're all caliber players, and they all can play at that level. But as far as that four being piled up against each other, I don't think um, they don't work together as well as they should. I think maybe if TP went back to 3 years ago and focus more on being like a player like Damon, then maybe. But um, I just don't think that four will blossom as well as, let's say, my team or Optic Gaming or Prof or teams that kind of had their roles solidified. Just because I think that team was more so thrown together just because Optic Nation only had Bose and Proof obviously was a newly released free agent from the gaming squad, and then Teep and Karma came straight off of EG.
Yeah.
So I don't think that squad was thrown together, with much thought of how well they would perform or work together. But I think that's a squad that's like probably the best of buds out of the game. But I just don't see their ability playing together being as good as they could be.
Do you like what I've said? My opinion on it has been that they just don't somehow, and I don't know if it's just maybe because like people like Slasher that have come up, the Denial whole roster, like there's a lot more kind of like amazing teams and the slaying power. Like if you look at your guys's wins and your losses, in your wins you all had over 1 KD, in your losses you all had below a 1 KD. And
Yeah.
so it's like, slaying is important in this game, and teams that can slay, like, especially like what Justice has been able to do online, Denial, Saints has been pretty consistent since Ghost, your guys' team, Optic, even Envious, like, and Prof, but you look at the players on Prof and you would look at that roster and say, what? They finished that high? They finished top three?
Well, yeah, I mean, see, the thing is with not saying Fears was their standout player, but Fears is always one of those players that I've relied on early game to go to and be like, hey, like he's a slasher, he's gonna get kills when I need him to get kills.
Yeah.
So like that kind of team works because it's like you have a player like that who's gonna get the kills. You have a selfish up and coming like Legal who's like Legal reminds me of Miracles around Champs time of 2013.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have, obviously Haggy, who's a veteran player who's going to do what it takes to win.
Yeah.
Um, and then Ricky, who's always been a solid player. But back to Optic Nation, I think the biggest downfall right now is those players are still trying to play the roles they played on their past teams, which they can't. If you look like Proofy used to be that player who was like, 40 kills every game, like that was his job, and then he was obviously on the gaming squad in, 2014, 2013, I believe, or just 2014, where, he was carrying Bomb and Search and Destroy. He was running like fast hands trophies on Dom, things like that. He kind of like adjusted his play style to fit that team, and now he's still playing kind of that objective focused role. And it's like, well, when you have Bose, Teep, and him doing that, it's not going to work. So for that team to work, you would have to have Proofy and Damon, Proofy and Damon going back to They would have to be like, high slayers every game, like, a media slasher and apathy. Um, and then, Teep and Bose would have to kind of just like work well together in terms of getting the objective done. Like, because I think they're clashing right now. Like, there's too much cluster on that team.
Yeah.
But I think if Proofy went back to that, hardcore slaying role, Damon, did Damon, did his thing, and then Tyler and Bose kind of figured out. And I call it levels of objective play. Like, see, like on our team, like kind of how I've always determined it. Like, let's say there's a 4v1 in or a 4v2 in search, right?
Hmm.
All of my team's alive and only two of the opponent teams alive. If
Yeah.
Doug's alive, Doug's the first one to get on the bomb. If I'm alive, I'll be the second. If App's alive, he's the next one. Like, it's kind of
Wow.
like a level of who does the objective based on who's there. Because you don't want to, like, if you have that mindset, you're never gonna like question like, am I pulling? Are you pulling? Who's pulling? So it's always like, if me and Doug are near a flag, Doug's gonna pull. If me and App are near a flag, I'm gonna pull. If App and Slash are near a flag, App's gonna pull. So it's I've always called it like levels of objective play. In terms of you kind of solidify on your team the roles you have, and you kind of go ahead and dictate all that confusion out, so you know who's gonna do what in what scenario. And I think that's a big reason we win our search and destroys on defense when the bomb is planted, because we get those picks when we get down to a 3v1 or 2v1 situation, and immediately we have someone going for the defuse, which forces a reaction out of the other team instead of like, guys, what are we doing? Are we going to play for kills? Who's getting on the bomb? What are we doing? And it's immediately we have a decision made already. So like, for example, like if you look in a lot of our situations when bomb was down over the weekend, we immediately got on it for a defuse, forced the other player to react, and obviously there's
Get
man
a pick.
advantage there, and a 3v1 we're going to get the kill. Yeah.
What I know you have a question, Fatty. We're about to get off the air as well. We got like 7 minutes, but I gotta ask this. What was the conversation going on in game in round, what was it, 10 of game, whatever game number that was, 11 or whatever it was, the last game of the tournament of
Game
Columbus?
9. Yeah, it was
What
game
were
9.
you guys, game 9? So round 10, it's 5-4. You guys are up. You definitely don't want it to go to 5-5, even though you guys won all but one of your 5-5, your round 11s the whole weekend. But what was the conversation that was going on in game? Like, what the heck did you guys tell Sensor to do what he was doing, where he was hiding behind the wall, peeking out? Like,
Yeah, kind of. So our goal going into that, we knew Optic kind of they play a lot different when they get first blooded. So we told Doug, we were like, Doug, don't plant until we get first blood. Like we were literally had, like we kind of had the balls to, go like till 5 seconds was left to
mm,
plant it, just because we were playing strictly for that first blood. And if you look at how we were set up for it. We had Doug strafing the pillar beside the truck, which gives him good protection because he can dodge nades, and it's kind of hard to shoot him in any angle. We had Slasher up top watching our flank, kind of hiding, playing more passive than he usually does. We had me down low A, and then we had App behind Doug watching the street,
yeah,
and we were honestly just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, and we were fine with it. If you saw, like, I think the stream was on Doug a majority of the time. Doug was just literally baiting out a kill constantly until we kind of had that opening. Um, which was really funny because I should have had the first blood, and then Doug jumped over the guy. I was down a platform, and there was a scump was on the stairs challenging me,
yeah,
and I shot him and I stopped shooting, and he got to cover. And then Doug, that I think when I was getting in that gunfight with Scump, that baited out Crim for Doug, and then Krim kind of started fighting Doug, and then Doug kind of outplayed him, and Krim challenged for some reason, and Doug got the first blood and got back to his corner, and
yeah.
then Doug came to help me on the kid I had weak, and you can't, you have to if you want to rewatch it, you have to watch it really slow on
Hmm.
the COD vision. Doug dashed over the guy on A steps. There was a guy laying prone on the steps. Doug dashed right over him and came to me for cover, but
Uh,
there was a guy laying down looking up, and it was a really weird timing play where they didn't see each other. And then Doug wrapped around. We had first blood. Doug wrapped around and then got he destroyed Formal on our stairs,
hmm.
and then killed Scump jumping back up to the bomb, and which was obviously like the game winning play for
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, in that round 10 we were strictly playing for a pick, and Doug opened it up with the kill on Krim because Krim challenged or whatever, and then that was what we were playing for. And as soon as we did that, we all kind of were like, all right, let's get bomb down, let's get together. And then we didn't have to do anything because Doug killed everyone, but um Doug went straight for bomb after his 3-piece, and then Nate obviously had to get him off, and then it was a 2v1, and me and App just kind of picked Nate, and I got the kill, and that was game over.
If you were Nate in that situation, like I felt like every time I've rewatched it, and I'm nowhere, I'm not a competitive player, but when I rewatched it after Nate got the kill, the first kill he got, um, but maybe he didn't know if there was someone behind him. I feel
Right,
like
yeah.
almost if he would have
So
backed up, go ahead.
well, his initial play was correct. He was in a 3v1, so he couldn't let us get bomb down. So him challenging the bomb is a smart play.
Yeah,
So once he killed Doug, he kind of, I think he hesitated because he wasn't sure where anyone was.
yeah,
And he sat in the middle of the street, which
yeah,
for us, like, okay, we know our red dot's there. We have man advantage. We're in a 2v1 now challenge, and that's what we both did. So if he would have dashed up middle ramp, which I don't think he knew where we were, so that's why he didn't. If he would have dashed up middle ramp and ran away, he would have had a likely chance to win that round, but I think he hesitated because he didn't know where he was, and he sat there waiting for someone to come to him, and I obviously came to his side, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean, he played it right initially, but he should have got out of there.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let Fatty throw one question at you, and then we're gonna close out.
All right. This comes from Big Pork Nation. If MLG could only ban one of these exo abilities, cloak or stim, I'm gonna add hover in there because a lot of people have been um,
Yeah,
complaining about that. But which one would you ban and why?
definitely cloak. Cloak's just it's something to where
I hate it.
you can dictate an entire strategy based on someone cloaking and kind of staying alive, and especially in search, it's one of those things to where it's not competitive. There's no really nerf to it. And the reason I would ban that instead of stim or hover, because I think hover it should at least get nerfed, and the only thing it's being used in right now is hardpoint, and people are hovering, and I think they need to just change the distance of how high you can be over a hill to cap it. I think that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Because that's really the only OP thing of hover right now. And then stim is just not effective enough because in hardpoint you can't really stims because obviously there's going to be stuns and nades thrown at you. In search there's really no use to it because I mean when are you going to be in a situation to where you can perfectly time your stim to fight a gunfight because it takes too long to even call. And uplink's the only thing it's really used in right now because it gives the extra health on the ball carrier. But even then, I mean, you tend to team shot the ball carrier, more times than none. So stim's not really overly effective, but definitely cloak. It's just too overpowered in search.
I agree. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are the likelihood that we will ever see optic aches?
You're gonna have to ask Hex that question.
All right.
Wait,
Now
say
he
that question
watches every
again.
show, so Hex, if you're watching, throw it in the chat. Sometimes he watches them on YouTube though. But so the way we close our show, Aches, is that yes, that's my number, Fatty.
I
Um,
was like, what the heck is this now?
why is we say whatever we want. You're allowed to say whatever you want to whoever you want, and in 30 seconds or less, and we'll close the show out. So I will have Fatty go first, and then Aches, you can go, and then I'll go.
All right.
All right. Well, X, thanks for coming on. Kingdom, thank you for having me. As always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you do something good for somebody today. That'd be amazing. Wash the dishes for your mom, mow the lawn for your dad. I don't know what the heck. Just do something good for somebody.
Go ahead,
My
Aches.
turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kingdom, for obviously having me on. Thank you, Fatty, for your interesting story about killing someone in public. Thank you, Goldie, for your silent production skills. And then thank you to everyone in the chat and all the questions I received. Um, I'm gonna go and finish this puzzle with my girlfriend, and then probably go out to dinner. So I hope you guys all have a good night. I'm going to try to. And again, thanks for having me on.
All right. I thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for pushing the stream to 13 something. I think we got to. Thank you, Golden Boy. I know you're in the chat for getting us some front page. And Aches, thank you, of course, for coming on. I gotta say, I'm impressed. I've had a number of pros on the show. I've had a number of owners. I've had a lot of owners on the show. Probably most of them, actually. Now that I think about it. But I'm impressed with your game knowledge and your IQ is. I thought that it would be way up, but it's no mystery as to how you've been able to achieve all of the success you've been able to achieve. So I appreciate you sharing some of that knowledge. Hopefully, people will go back and watch this on YouTube if they want to learn some stuff about this game. Nevertheless, this is Kingdom Soldier, Fatty, and Aches. You guys stick around for the commercial break. Me and Fatty may do some post stream predictions for like 10 minutes about the matches that are taking place tonight. Aches, I hope you have fun tonight, and good luck in season 1.
Thank
Peace
you.
out, guys.